because of that one moment and that action, like who God uses in your life and the friends that he uses for seasons, like allow you to be in the place where he wants you to be.
If you think about it, we did all just meet literally yesterday.
Yeah.
Feels like we've known each other forever.
Kiki.
But like, yeah, I feel like, but it's not always that way, like when you meet your first friend.
No. That's so true.
It could be. So does anybody remember the first friend they ever met?
I don't remember meeting her. She was just always around me because my mom and her mom were really close friends. So I just grew up with her. That was my sister, and we did everything together, bro. Like, and then her dad was divorced and he lived in Wyoming. And I remember she would leave to Wyoming, and it was like this dramatic, like, no.
So sad. The slow music is playing.
Just like reminiscing.
Making music videos.
Yeah, so I remember just knowing the value of a friendship at such a young age. Yeah. Because when we separated, I was like, man, like that's my girl. Yeah. I've always had really strong friends though, but that was the first one where I was like, dang, like, I love you, you know?
Yeah. Is there like a moment for y'all where you feel like, this is my friend? Like when you meet somebody, like obviously when you meet somebody and you guys get along, you're like, yeah, I get along with people, but like, what's like the friend moment? Like when you're like, that's my girl.
Yeah, I feel like it's when I'm belly laughing. Like if I'm on the floor just chuckling, I'm like, we're locked in. Like, we're friends forever at this point. Like I love people who we could just not always be so serious. Like
you can
vibe.
Life isn't that serious, babe.
And also people who you could also just be in silence with too. That's another good like sign of a good friendship where I don't feel awkward.
Well, there's nothing more intimate than like editing your photos in silence.
Yes. Yes.
After y'all go out, you come home, you're like,
oh, that's how I know I could rock with somebody is like if we went out and just like talked and ate and then took some pics and we go back to the crib and we're just
Yes.
and it's so intimate. It's so real.
It really is.
That's real.
It's comfortability with the person that you're surrounded with. Because I think like I've noticed even in my friendships where like, I feel like I have to constantly be talking or like getting things out is when I'm uncomfortable and I don't know what else to say. Like the silence is awkward. But then it's like when you're with somebody and like you could just be with them, like it's just a whole nother level.
It's a blessing.
That's
I love it.
There's been times to where I expected my friends to read my mind.
Totally.
And I would even kind of sit and just like throw an attitude.
Wait, yes. Yeah.
Over the years, I had to learn that there's power in asking for help.
Totally.
Yes.
And I think us as friends and even just women feel weak whenever we ask for help, but actually it's a sign of strength.
Yeah. And when we ask for help, that's like literally biblical iron sharpening iron.
Yes.
Like we make each other better. Have you guys had like iron sharpening iron moments in your friendships, relationships?
100%.
Yes, and in those moments too, I think like we think about that and we're like, wow, we're growing together. But it's like, no, iron sharpening iron also means like you're gonna have conflict.
Yes.
You're gonna feel the pain, like iron going against each other. Yes, and like you are sharpening one another. That means you're breaking away the old things to make something more. I'd be afraid and running the other way if I had friends that were like, you're doing great, sweetie, the entire time. We're friends, because it's like, wait, conflict doesn't mean like they hate me, I'm running away.
No.
It means, hey, I care about you. I see something in you and I see growth.
And whenever your friends tell you the truth, like that's the most loving thing they can do.
Yes.
And like whenever, like when a friend sits me down and they're like, girl, you've been acting a fool.
Yeah.
I'm like, of course in that moment it's not fun. But afterwards you're like so grateful for friends who are honest and upfront with you. And honestly can be like, it's a game changer when people if people love you enough to sit you down and in grace and truth, like love you enough to say, hey, something's not right. Like, I mean, I know you've had some situations in your life where friends have like pulled you out of some like really hard stuff. Tell us.
Yeah. So whenever I was in high school, I was just going through like suicidal ideation and I was going through verbal and mental abusement from my parents and just being bullied at school. And there was a night to where I literally was going to, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
The night that I almost committed, my parents were so vicious to me. And my friends came and they embraced me and they just cried and wept to me and they said, please don't do this. I think that's kind of like why I feel so confident in my friendships because I've always been longing for good relationships with people, and I always thought that I wasn't capable or worthy of having a good family, but the Lord gave me a new family in my friendships.
There's like so much beauty in everything that you just said, like even identifying your friends as like, I got to choose them. Like how great and amazing is it that we get to choose our friends and the people we surround ourselves with.
Another thing I feel like in girl friendships a lot is like comparison.
Ooh.
So I feel like I know we're all like, I'm going there. I'm diving in.
The jealousy.
The jealousy and I really believe like it is an act of the enemy. I believe that the enemy wants to pin us against each other.
Yeah.
He sees girls like running for the kingdom and he's like, how can I? And the one like major thing he uses in friendships is comparison. And I think that one of the ways that we combat comparison is with celebration. It's like celebrating each other instead of like pinning like, or saying like, I can't believe she's doing this better than me. It's like, Haleigh, you're incredible. Like, you have a piece of you that I don't have, and I mean that. Like, there are gifts that God has given you, and you, and you that He hasn't given me, and that's why we need each other. So, what do we like? Toxic friendships. Like, what do we like? I know I've had friends in my life that I'm like, you're invading my space, and it's not helping me grow. What do we do? Like, how do we?
Yeah, toxic people are just hurt people. The toxic really is just them putting it on other people. But they're just hurt.
Yeah, and I think too, like, it's this fear that, like, they're not gonna be loved here and now for who they are. It's this fear that, like, they have to show up and be something for you because where you're at and they're not coming up alongside you because they can't catch up. And, like, really if they're not rooted in the confidence of who they are in God, then they're going to be feeling like they're always having to catch up and run this race. And, like, it's gonna become competition because they're comparing themselves to you before they compare themselves to God. I feel like toxic, like that word, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me. It's just like, it's this, what you said, it's hurt people that are looking for something more. And instead of healing in the midst of their hurt, they allow their hurt to amplify them to like justify why they're not where they're wanting, like wanting to be because their comparison is so high up here. But they really are just screaming for your love and your attention, even in a moment where that comparison comes in. Like, how do you navigate that and how do you allow yourself to be a friend in the here and now and not let it like get the best of you when things like a new person comes in and you're like, whoa, you know?
Yeah, it's one thing that I always say like in conversations when it comes to comparison is like, if your eyes are up, it's hard to look around. So if our eyes are like, I'm looking to the author and perfecter, I'm running my race, like staying in my lane, it's hard for me. Like whenever, if you think about you're physically running right at a track meet, which I personally won't be doing, praise God. But if you are, if that's something you're passionate about, good, pop off. When you start running that race, you're trying to get to that finish line, you have no time to turn to the left and to turn to the right because then you're gonna slow down.
And I think just keeping your eyes on the prize, we could all step down to everything, to the nit-grit of it. Jesus sets the standard to everything. And I think we forget, Jesus was such a friend to these disciples, people who did him dirty and wrong, and see how he washed his feet.
He modeled, he modeled friendship really well, I would say perfectly. Jesus was present, servant-minded. Jesus didn't come he came to serve. He came to serve. And he told the truth in love. Honest. And he prayed for his friends. I think honesty, like being honest with your friends is really important whenever they are sinning and they're continuing to like live in sin and pursue sin, like sitting down and having that honest conversation. But it doesn't always go well, like Emmy's saying. Like it doesn't always, people aren't always just super receptive, like, okay, you're right. So what do we do? What kind of boundaries do we set whenever people are unwilling to give up whatever it is? Like for me personally, I struggled with alcohol. And whenever I decided to go completely sober, I said, I'm not drinking anymore. So the boundary that I set is I'm not gonna go to the places that I used to go. You know what I mean? I'm gonna still love that person and be friends with them, but they can come over to my apartment, we can play a little game of cards, you know, something like that. But
there's something so interesting that happens at the end of Job because his friends were saying, no, you had to do something wrong. They were being like honest with him. You had to do something wrong. God's not talking to you. This is all happening. You're receiving all this torment. Why is this happening? And when the Lord speaks in chapter 38 of Job, he speaks to Job. And then after he tells Job, he said to Eliphaz the Temanite, I'm angry with you and your two friends because you have not spoken the truth about me as my servant Job has. Your circle matters.
And you become like who you allow yourself to be with. I believe like you have to surround yourself with people that found goodness in the Lord and who they are now.
While you're talking, I'm thinking about like, did a friend invite you to youth group?
Yeah.
So like, just like
An atheist. My friend was an atheist.
The ripple effect of somebody inviting you into that space, even if it was for free pizza.
Yes. Like it's such a punchline, a Muslim and an atheist going into a church for free pizza. No, but we're literally going in there to get pizza and leave. And I stayed, but because of that one moment and that action, like who God uses in your life and the friends that he uses for seasons, like allow you to be in the place where he wants you to be. And so remembering that every friendship has been accounted for. Like every friendship that you have been in matters. And it's not just this like, yes, they may have fallen away, they may have like lost that touch, but what had happened back then has led you to who you are now, whether that's hurt, whether that's healing, whether that's like them amplifying and still here today. But every single friendship is accounted for and means something. They were what I needed them to be in that moment, and allowing yourself to be okay with that, even if it's not gonna amplify to anything else.
That's so good.
I'm feeling like right now, like the Holy Spirit is kind of just speaking that there are people watching or listening that don't feel like they have friends. What's like just encouragement that we could leave those people who are feeling like they're in that lonely place right now without friends?
Yes. Yeah. Loneliness is definitely rooted in not knowing identity. This feeling is real. And like the Lord is sorry, like he does not want us to be alone. Like his heart for us is never to be alone. Like he created Eve in the garden for Adam because Adam, it's not good for man to be alone.
So good.
That part. And that's why Jesus came, so that we were able to tear down that veil so we could be together with God. God does not call you to be alone.
No.
I struggled with a season of loneliness after moving. Like I went to this ministry school, shut down, lost my friends, went to the next one, shut down, lost my friends, like came back to my hometown and everyone like grew up and changed, and it's like, whoa, we're not in the same place anymore. And so in the midst of all of that, I had to be praying, not complaining, but praying for those friends to come into my life.
We should all be actively trying to be the friends that we are praying for. If nobody's being that way to me, then maybe I need to start being that way to people. I want to say like in early college, like freshman year, it was struggle bus central for me because I literally could not figure out how to make friends in such a brand new setting. I was so overwhelmed with it, and I literally felt like it was gonna ruin my college career if I didn't have like a bunch of like friends and I didn't have friends I could hang out with and whatever. I kid you not, guys, like as soon as I started being that friend that I wanted so bad, that I prayed for days and weeks and months on end, now I have like the best friend group I've ever had in my whole entire life. The most like God-centered, kind, loving, caring, gentle friends I've ever had in my whole entire life. It's just as you have to put yourself out there and literally be that friend that you are praying for every single day.
Proverbs 18 talks about like having to have a friend, you got to be a friend. Just like the golden rule, but also like it says that there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And so it's all in one, like it's all in the same chapter, that those two things are just hand in hand. And so I think that being a good friend comes from being friends with the Father. Like when you are friends and intimate, like an intimate friendship with the Father, like you know him as a father, but you also know him as a friend. There's a relationship, there's a friendship that like it can't be replaced. It is the best one.
Exactly, because he was the one that taught me how to be a friend. Something was missing in me the whole entire time. And as soon as I took accountability and I said, Father, teach me what is it that I'm missing? What is it that I'm lacking that is not allowing me to be there for people right now? That is when I was able to properly understand what friendship is, what the definition of friendship is, and how to be there for other people.
Yeah,
I love it. I feel like to have a friend, to be a good friend, all of it starts with being friends with the Father.
Yes, 100%.
Hey girl! Thank you so much for the girl talk today. Nothing beats getting to just talk through these hard topics with the girls. And I do not want to miss you in our next chat. And so be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a post. Chat to you soon!